is how it treats its women and girls. The measure of any society is how it treats its women and girls.
We create
the smart, powerful, creative, accomplished young women.
We can fight.
I'm here because of you. I'm here because girls like you inspire me. Many of these girls have faced unthinkable obstacles just to attend school. The measure of any society is how it treats its women and girls.
One stand still.
Buckle up, buttercups. It's another episode of Surly Voices here on WMNF Tampa 88.5. My name is Liz. I'm one of your hosts. I'm expecting my co-hosts imminently, but wow, what a last couple of days we've had. Trump has, in order to borrow a phrase from one of my favorite shows, Letterkenny, Trump has picked the DGen All-Stars in the universe for some of these positions, chiefly Matt Gaetz. Oh my gosh, allegedly trafficking and pedophiling, allegedly. Although there is a report that's supposed to come out in the next couple of days that will have findings in it that may not be exactly what Mr. Gaetz thinks they are. It's. I mean, he's the most glaringly obvious bad choice for Attorney General position. I mean, that's the chief law enforcement officer in the United States, and we're going to give it to an alleged sex trafficker and alleged pedophile. So it doesn't look like he's going to get enough votes because even Republicans are offended by this. But, you know, you never know. They all say one thing and they do another. So it's going to be interesting. If you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 813-239-9663, or you can email to dj@wmnf.org. So lots of ground to cover because the picks are coming out fast and furious. And so Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, and Tulsi Gabbard makes a reappearance. She's being nominated for an intelligence position, Director of National Intelligence. And I remember from the last election when Tulsi Gabbard was running, and all these Democrats kept saying, she's a great pick. She checks all the boxes. No, she was a Republican op, and we told y'all that at the time. And look here. She's nominated for Director of National Intelligence, which national intelligence in this case is an oxymoron. So, Matt Gaetz, of course, Susie Wiles is nominated to be the chief of staff, and she worked very much on his campaign. She was pretty much the manager of the campaign. he had a nickname for her, the Ice Maiden. So that tells you what we're in for there. Let me take this call from Sierra in Tampa. Hi, Sierra.
Hello, Surly Voices. I am so glad to hear you this morning. I have not stopped crying for a week, and I literally am just riding the grief super highway and trying to figure out how to be the change I wish to see in this world. But I've called in before because we live in Florida, and Florida has turned completely red tide, and I am allergic to red tide, literally and figuratively in this scenario. I grew up in Tampa, Florida. I don't recognize my own city anymore. I'm surrounded by Trumpers. And again, like during the hurricane, do you stay and rebuild, or do you relocate? Like, I am genuinely scared to stay here. I am a massage therapist, and I actually have to take a sex trafficking course in order to hold my license in the state of Florida. And we live in a place where sex trafficking is practically legal right now. And now we have a rapist for president, and he's nominating rapists and sex traffickers and pedophiles in his cabinet. And how do I stay here? Honestly, right. I love you. Thank you for your voices, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Sierra. The problem is, if you were inclined to leave Florida, anywhere in the United States you go, it's going to be, Trump time 24/7. And, unless you have many, many means at your disposal, moving overseas is not really an option. And so I would, yes, it's hard to look at Marco Rubio getting nominated for Secretary of State, the nation's top diplomat. Marco Rubio, seriously, the one who won't even talk to his own constituents. And so it's all about cronyism once again, although this time he isn't tapping into the normal capitalist donors that he picked last time around. This time he's pulling people who are already entrenched in the government. And so that tells me he's gotten a little bit more savvy about how to get his agenda accomplished. And so, yeah, Sierra, it's easy to be discouraged, but this is the time to be vigilant and to support people who are not in a position to move to another country, which is most people. It is discouraging. It is very much disappointing, but I'm of the attitude that it's like, okay, this is a huge speed bump in my happiness in life, so I just need to get over the speed bump. It's simplistic, but I don't see it as fatal right now, but it's quickly going to get that way, and I want to get my own house in order, physically, mentally, and emotionally, financially, so that I will be able to help people who are going to need help, which is a lot of people. Welcome to my co-host, Donna.
Hey.
How you doing this morning?
You know what? I had to peel myself out of bed. I have various allergies, and so I've just been eating whatever came to my mind that seemed like a good idea. High sodium, high fat, trans fats, sugar, whatever, you name it. People my age should not. People at no age should do what I've done.
Should,
okay?
Yeah.
And so I now have to drop the campaign weight. I didn't take my lunchbox. I did. I actually bought a very expensive Stanley lunchbox that didn't keep my stuff cold, but I digress. I've been doing a lot of things. I've been doing a lot of self-soothing things. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm going to stop doing those self-soothing things. And I no longer have to protest at the DEC office, the county.
Oh, yeah. Let's drop that piece of tea in a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait. I've been talking about the DGen All-Stars that Trump's put up for all these offices. And bear in mind, generally you have to go through congressional approval for a lot of these. Trump is reportedly planning to do what's called a recess appointment. And what that means is he's going to wait until Congress is not in session and do a bunch of appointments like this.
And that's fine, because they're going to do what they want to do anyway. They've got a trifecta. There's no opportunity really for Democrats to get in there. Filibuster is not going to be happening now with the majority in the House. So, here's what I would recommend. I'm going to do my big one right now. I recommend to everyone here to engage themselves. And this is not hopium for those of you who are going to try it this morning. Okay? Listen, I misread that last week. I thought it was words of encouragement. Liz helped me understand it was sarcasm. And so now that I know that, I'm going to say, listen, what else are we going to do? Are we going to march in the street? You know what? The same amount of black people are killed by the police now as was in 2013 when Trayvon Martin was killed. So Occupy. We tried to confront the capitalists on Wall Street and let them know that we weren't having it. We tried to let the patriarchy know that our body's our choice. We saw what happened there. All right. Let's just go down the line. We said that gender was a spectrum. That was used to help Trump win the campaign. She cares about they, them. I care about you.
Right.
So famously stated. Now we'll go down into the annals of marketing and propaganda history. So I would say that we've tried all of the things that would immediately come to mind for this. The only thing they haven't been able to take away from us, and I'm going to say it again this week, because most of you are going to obsess about the details. Rick Scott almost replaced McConnell, right? Just think about that. The people who have done terrible things being richly rewarded for their dereliction of duties and transgressions against all of our collective humanity. So there's all of those things. Those things are real. They happened. But so did we pulled out everything in our toolbox. So we thought, we'll get to that, to try to overcome the loss of empathy, which is what I will boil it all down to. At its essence is the erosion of empathy in a society, which always happens when people are forced to fight for their survival every day, clawing the sidewalk for their daily bread. People lose empathy with others. They say, hey, I'm suffering, we should all suffer. And that's all that's happening here at its essence. And I think that we're learning a valuable lesson, right? This is like my morning, diatribe, so stay with me, okay? I think we're learning a valuable lesson about the usefulness, the utility of collective care and sharing. This is what we're learning.
Yes.
We're learning that in a society where we decide to throw empathy overboard, this is what takes hold of us. And so I hope you all are planning for the government in the shape of a nation that will look more like Minnesota. Tim Walz, your unproblematic fave, he has done things in Minnesota that have not been able to be done here. And I will underscore my morning rant with this. From Washington. In a majority-making special election, DLCC Spotlight candidate Ann Johnson Stewart has emerged victorious, protecting the Minnesota Senate majority. While the full Minnesota Senate was not up this cycle, this seat in this special election, which I was there for, I was there to help protect what could be protected. I decided to leave Philly. I saw Philly was sliding into hell. And so I decided to go to some place where I could actually use my talents for good. And so I went to Minnesota for the last part of this. This seat in this special election was a must-win for defending the Democratic majority in the chamber. As part of DFL's governing trifecta, now the DFL is the Democratic Farm and Labor Party, as the Democratic Party is known in Minnesota, dairy state. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Historically, the Vikings, the Swedes, the Germans, the Teutonic peoples settled Minnesota. They got for my indigenous people who are listening, they homesteaded on top of the indigenous tribes that were there. As part of the DFL's governing trifecta in Minnesota, Senate Democrats passed critical legislation to fund free breakfast and lunch for K through 12 students, increase funding for mental health services, protect school library books from censorship, establish paid family and medical leave, and enshrine protection for reproductive freedom. These achievements hung in the balance with the threat of Republicans taking this chamber and stymieing a future progressive agenda. Yet voters delivered a clear mandate that Democrats should continue moving the state forward.
Awesome.
In the middle of the fray, Minnesota, with the highest civic engagement in these United States, right? With the exception of our states that are in Canada, like Vermont. Our states, we have a couple states in Canada. But with the exception of, without exception, I just said that to be silly. Minnesota has the highest civic engagement in the country, which is usually generally thought to be reflective of satisfaction with the quality of life. And I will give you this. When you walk the streets of Atlanta, when you need customer service in a retail establishment, you will feel the pain, the pinch that people are feeling, the desperation, the rage. You will feel it. They will serve it to you with your brunch. However, when you go into Minnesota, you can see ease on most people's faces, even in the hood, because you can get help when you need it. If you're a teen, trans teen, and you're struggling, there is a place that you can go and get housing in addition to all of your other basic needs met.
Oh, wow.
Right? And they've had a huge influx of trans people into Minnesota because this is where they feel safe. Minnesotans went out of their way to protect trans lives long before. Now, do they still have some trouble with black folks? Yes. And any black person that I know in Minnesota will tell you we are not there yet. But who is?
Right.
Who's there? So here's what I got to say. There are places, because they have protected their local and state governments, that are doing the thing that we would like to see done on a national level. Tim Walz was added to that ticket because he reflects that sharing and caring, you can actually have a solvent budget. Minnesota recently paid off the United States government for the help that they received during COVID, the unemployment.
Wow.
They're flush now. Then decided to go ahead and give free lunch to kids, Tim Walz said, so that parents can spend more time with their children in the morning. Okay? So it's possible, and if you are discouraged and distraught, I need you to look at Minnesota. We call it the Minnesota Miracle. I've been in Minnesota every year for the past 4 years. It can happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. That used to be a red state. Mm-hmm. It's possible. So if you need examples, look there. And the other thing is, don't get yourselves bent out of shape, right? Liz just told you. My financial health as best as I can. My physical health, I told you I'm going to go take myself over to the gym today and go to yoga class and start with just calming down.
Yeah.
So it is possible for us to have a better world. We will get there. Europeans beat each other over the head with sticks for 2,000 years before they decided that they weren't going to be, and overtly like the United States cowboys, right? And so people learn over long stretches of time. We're a relatively new country, 250 years. And so that's my word of care and love to you this morning.
All right. Let's talk to Connie in Tampa. Hi, Connie.
Good morning, beautiful women.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I can tell you what, for the next 4 years, I plan on minding my flight business.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
As I continue to have political engagement within inside of the community.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I did share with my grandson this morning was that what we see now is the best that white America has to offer the world. Because the majority that voted and supported this candidacy, they won. It's going to be a winner and it's going to be a loser. The fact that Matt Gaetz can be elevated the fact that some of their fathers, my grandsons' fathers, can't get jobs because of records of not being charged, just only being charged with a criminal history.
Right.
So for the next 4 years, we're planning on not spending into this economy outside of our necessary things that we just have to have, and just watch America. We
Right.
just have to watch America. And Donna, it would be like this. We love potato salad, but we don't like potato salad with raisins.
No.
And for all of those allies that continue to want to bring raisins to the party, they're going to learn today. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Sister Connie.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Every time I see things about raisins and potato salad, it just blows my mind. It's like, who would even think these things would go together? Let's talk to Mike in Sarasota. Hi, Mike.
Thank you very much for taking my call. What I would like to comment on, and this is following up on what your guest just said, I think that this election illustrates the futility in elections, particularly national ones, of aggressive identity politics, which, rightly or wrongly, exclude the identity of the majority of voters. And what I'm going to point out to is examples. I mean, we all know that white voters and black males and Latin males came out disproportionately for Trump relative to past elections. And I think what happened was that they're reacting to things like Biden announcing he's going to pick a black female as his vice presidential candidate, which excludes whites, males, white females, Hispanics, and even black males. Same thing with Ketanji Brown Jackson. He announced he's going to pick a black female for Supreme Court justice. And then 66% of Biden's judicial appointees were people of color. So I think, now, of course, it's hard to get into the psychology of all these voters, but it's my feeling that this election was largely a reaction to moves like this.
Okay.
Okay, I want to ask you a couple questions.
Yes.
Because while I would agree with you that this is a reaction to seeing people in places where they've been traditionally unrepresented, right? That's a different slant on the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you clearly have a lot of emotion behind your words.
I'm not emotional. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be rational. I'm just trying to think of political strategy here.
Okay, all right.
I'm actually a fellow liberal like you.
Okay, well, I'm going to help you.
I certainly did not vote for Trump.
Well, we all know that liberals have indulged in some of the isms and are famous for that, and that Dr. King famously talked about liberals. Mm-hmm. So being a liberal doesn't mean that we necessarily align ideologically, at least not at that basis, right? So
I'm just saying I'm not emotional about this.
Okay.
I'm trying to be rational.
Okay.
I'm trying to be rational.
Okay. So there were a lot of losing strategies on the part of liberals. I think that we saw, because people like to say things like, well, this is the result of this, or this is the result of that. And then I'd like to point out circumstances where the opposite took place. So they said that this election is illustration of this being a white supremacist country. And I said, okay, then explain Obama. Mm-hmm. Black man, black wife, black kids, everybody brown in there, right? We know black people, we know white folks' history with black people in the United States, but people went bonkers over Obama. I was in the room when he accepted the nomination in Denver, Colorado. People were like, you could see the spirals in their eyes. They were in love with this guy. So either they forgot he was black or he transcended race. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna leave that there. Leave that right there. And
do you think? Let me
Mm-hmm.
while it's fresh.
Okay.
Do you think the fact that his mom was white had any mitigating effect for these racists?
I mean, I think you got to think hard, right? You're looking at a person that looks unambiguously black.
Right.
He didn't look like Cory Booker. He looked like my cousins.
Yeah.
And so we know we use the term white passing because we understand that when a white person looks at someone who is adjacent to them, there's a different energy. It's almost like it's encoded in your DNA, right?
Right.
Like the more someone is like you, the more you know. So they're looking at a man and a woman who is a descendant of slaves. And his children are descendants of slaves, consequently. Her mother is right there beside them, who is also deep-complexioned, deeply melanated woman. So they were looking at a Black American family, an affluent Black American family. And they went over the edge for this guy. Some of those people voted for Donald Trump. They had to. They had to. And so how did that happen? So the caller that's on the line now is correct. There were some things that people pushed back against. Now, I'm going to give you more context for what he's saying, because he sounded to me, upset that they were saying, we're going to go and look at people who are traditionally unrepresented in these spaces and give qualified individuals an opportunity. So, that sounds like something that a lot of liberals in America would be offended by, right? Because they have perceived that something that they took from others is now being taken from them. Boo-hoo. But when I look at it, I see less white supremacy, because white supremacy is like the standard, right? And then Obama was the deviation.
Right.
And now we're back to the standard. And so for people to invoke white supremacy just because we reverted to the standard doesn't make sense to me. You guys act like white supremacy isn't something new. I'm a Black woman in America, born and raised in the South.
Right.
Right? So I understand what the basis line is. There's things that happen to me here all the time that didn't happen to me for a month in Minnesota or 3 months in Philly, because this is where the home of that stuff is. Right. So, I mean, you were at the concert with me. It's at the door. They start at the door. So, you guys, I think you need to really think more deeply about this. While white supremacy is our standard, and yes, liberals were offended by us actually venturing into qualified people who weren't white and male, right? We had the same uproar when Sotomayor was nominated, right? We didn't mind.
May I respond? I don't want to interrupt.
I'm going to get there. Hold on. Yep. I held you on the line because I wanted to hear your response to this. But let me get to the end, okay? I kind of got lost, and I apologize for that.
Please.
Okay, so I get it, but there was a point after the debate, this is where I wanted to get to, where it was clear that this Black South Asian woman was in the lead. And there was a great warm welcome for her coming into this nomination, right? Something that she didn't get when she was vice president in the White House, if we're honest. And that eroded. And why did it erode? Because she opened her mouth and she started talking about things, Black and South Asian and all, that were not important to where the American people were.
Right.
The same thing happened when the Democratic Party spoke and they said, Bernie is not our standard. He is 8 standard deviations from where we want to be as moderates and liberals, and so we're going to railroad him.
Right.
That was the beginning of this happening this year. So, I mean, white folks can be mad about Ketanji Jackson Brown. She's by far the most qualified person that's been not exceptionally qualified. She's more she's overqualified for the Supreme Court compared to the people that have been recently. I don't hear anybody saying Amy Coney Barrett is a woman.
Right.
But no one's upset about that.
Exactly.
She's absolutely unqualified for the post. Gates unqualified for the post. And you notice this, and then I'll let the caller respond. Everybody's up in arms about these people, these silly people that are being nominated. But I have not yet heard once in the last 48 hours unqualified. I'm going to sit down on that one because I was standing up.
Yeah, she stood up and everything. She had a Julia Sugarbaker moment. What's your response, Mike?
My response is that it's not fair or even apt.
There it is.
To compare Kamala to Obama. For one reason, Obama was not perceived as deeply woke to this conversation. Number 2, Obama was running after George Bush II, who many people hated and had led this country into, I don't know if he led it, but there was a recession happening in 2008.
Okay.
So Kamala did not have any of those advantages. So this is a very different time. And finally, Kamala was certainly not Obama in terms of being a candidate. Barack Obama, who I voted for, was a very strong candidate. He was a galvanizing speaker. Kamala, in 2020, when she ran for president, she did very poorly. I think she got 2% of the vote in the primaries where she was actually entered. And many people that I know, I shouldn't say many, but several people that I know, and commenting about her campaign this time around, they did not hear any galvanizing ideas. Remember, she went on that show and they asked her, well, what would you do differently from Biden?
She said nothing.
Right. She
couldn't think of anything.
She did not divorce
I can't really
herself.
think of anything.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm not getting into the rightness or wrongness of it, but that's not good politics. I mean, you want to be able to stir people. You want to give them a vision, right? And so, she was just a weak campaigner.
All right. We got to let you go, Mike, because we got other folks on hold, but thank you for calling.
So my response,
thank you.
My response to Mike is he started out, and this is the problem with liberals. He started out saying that he thought that this was a white supremacist, in a word, right? I'm taking some liberties here, so bear with me. Was clapback, as we call it in popular culture, to that Trump was clapback for the identity politics. But what he's really saying, because I heard the emotion in his voice. Did you hear it? Did I imagine that? I heard the emotion in his voice. He might be a closet Trump voter. Okay, he may be. I don't know. A lot of people who thought this, that trans politics, black politics, that these nominations that were specific and that they were stated, were really angry about that as white men and white women. And that some of that was at play. Now, I can't say for sure I can't read the mind of this caller, but I heard the same thing that I hear from low-key liberal white supremacists, that identity politics, where identity politics is a standard in this country. If you haven't been white and you haven't been male, you couldn't play. You couldn't even pay to play.
Right.
And so now that someone is saying, I, a white man, am going to affirm people of talent that all happen to be black because their blackness was alienating them from these opportunities, then all of a sudden everyone's bent out of shape and we want to elect Trump and drive the whole thing off the cliff.
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
All right, Stephen in St. Petersburg. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, is my phone audio quality okay for you?
It's a bit scratchy, but let's try to work with it.
Yeah, and I'll be as brief as I can, even though usually I'm too verbose. First of all, thank you for the extremely intelligent show as always. Second, when that lady called before Mike, I was reminded of what Malcolm X said about black coffee and how you don't want to put cream into black coffee because it weakens the coffee. If you know what that allegory is about, it's pretty funny. Thirdly, when I was in the military, my duty was Russian intelligence and monitoring. And I can assure you that regardless of all the blame games, which are unfair against Vice President Harris and Joe Biden and the Democratic Party, Vladimir Putin, and starting the project that Nikita Khrushchev explicitly said to America, we will not have to invade you. We won't have to fire a shot. We'll find people to do our bidding from within your own citizenry. Look at who Trump has nominated for his national intelligence security position and other positions of Pentagon. They're Putin agents. And this is like Germany in 1934. All of us are going to get real serious, or else it could go a lot worse than anybody's been mentioning even today on this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. And we're not liberals, by the way. It's become like an insult, liberals.
It is become an insult because it's such an insincere place to dwell.
Right. So, let's see. Let's get some. All right. Valerie says she believes the election was stolen. I don't doubt that. Who is to blame? I like checks and balances in government. Apparently, the Republicans now control everything. Who is to blame? The voters or the Democratic Party? And this is signed by Jeff. Well, my opinion, and this is my opinion, not the opinion of WMNF, my opinion is that the Democratic Party is wholly to blame. And Joe Biden is a close second in that whole process. There is no way the Democratic Party should not have had the come to Jesus meeting with Biden long ago and said, look, you're getting kind of long in the tooth. You're not a great pick anyway, so we're just going to, this canonization of Biden and, he's the only one who can beat Trump. No, he wasn't. He never was. Never was. He was the worst president other than Trump I've seen in my lifetime. I'm not even putting W in that category.
Because everything that caller said about Kamala Harris is also true for Joe Biden. He wasn't he wasn't a galvanizing force. He wasn't a great orator, at least not in this iteration of Joe Biden.
He never was a great orator.
And he was known for holding forth, as they said. Remember that?
It just talks a lot.
Loves verbose and not really saying anything, right? And the same thing is true for him as true for her, but he's safe over there as the president,
right?
Sleepy Joe. That tells you exactly what is at the core of what this caller is telling us.
The problem is the Democratic Party for years now has picked the person they want to be the president and manipulated things behind the scenes to get that person in the driver's seat.
And I will say this, and I said this coming out of BLM. And I will say this to Mike. It was Mike that was our caller before?
Just now, yeah.
Okay, before Mike.
Oh.
Okay, so I think that was Steve before we had Mike.
No, Steve was after Mike, I think.
Okay.
I think Mike's who you're talking about.
Okay, so yeah, Mike. So I admitted that BLM made a lot of tactical errors, both in its conversations with the black community and in its conversations with its white allies, right? That we basically told people to sit down and shut up and, we're going to be driving this bus, which was in theory, I think, fair, but in reality hard for individuals that wanted to help to stomach. And that some of the pushback from that space came from those tactics. Now, I will admit that. I will also admit that it was the first time that white America heard black people say, we're not going to play your game anymore.
Yes.
We're wearing our hair out. We're using our vernacular, as our standard. We're not going to let you intimidate us into folding ourselves into your culture with the knowledge that you'll never really accept us. Like this MAGA guy who was almost about to cry on the internet last week. And he said that someone told him, you'll never be fully accepted into the MAGA family. You know that, right? And he was like, what? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, because you're black. And he just needed your vote. And so then a famous TikToker came on and he said, this is the, FAFO, right? Yep. You guys know what that means. And you were in the, mess around phase, and now you're in the find out phase.
Yep.
And so some of those people are going to find that. Other people are going to find that their money, other black people are going to find their money is going to do amazingly well. Under Republicans, stock market is already charging. I'm making money. I'll admit that. And it started when he started creeping up in the polls toward the end, that last month. The stock market started taking its seatbelt off and standing up to get its luggage from the overhead bin. And so here we are. So some good things are going to happen. A lot of bad things are going to happen. Most of them are going to be social. Most of them are going to be reversible, right? And a lot of them are going to, because people are not, what's going to happen as a consequence of mass deportation is a really nasty economy, the likes of which we've never seen. And first of all, you guys, I got to say this. It costs $10,000 on the low end, on or thereabout. These are the numbers that I've been working on this week to bring you back. $10,000 on the low end to deport one individual.
Wow.
$12,000 on the high end. So you do the math.
Wow.
So let's say $12,000, inflation, $12,000 to deport one person. And they're talking about deporting 11 billion people.
Jeez.
Now, if no one has told you that the reason why consumer goods are as
inexpensive,
relatively, comparatively as where they can go.
Oh, yeah,
Right? Because
yeah.
if you live in Puerto Rico, consumer goods are not expensive, right? They are expensive. They're super expensive. I was there after the storm, and they went even higher.
Yeah.
So consumer goods on the mainland are relatively low cost, and that has to do with the cost of labor. When you start deporting people, two things happen. One, you got the cost. You gotta imbue the budget for the Department of Homeland Security and INS. Number one, with a few $1 billion to get that job done. And the cost always spiral. So even at the top end of that, the cost is going to be probably closer to $20,000 a head, right? So there's that. And then you have the cost of labor goes up. The thing that you were afraid of with minimum wage going up, you're going to get that squared now. And no one's talking about the pain of every night turning on the television and seeing families being torn apart. Now, I mean, I said that out loud the other day, and I thought about, we were able to manage the pain of Gaza. No one seemed to flinch there. I mean, people did, but generally people kept going as if that was normal, right? So there are a lot of things that will happen as a consequence of this election. So that's all I got to say. It's not going to be what people think it's going to be. The folks who voted for Donald Trump, it's not going to be what they think.
All right, let's talk to Fran in Largo. Hi, Fran.
Oh, hi there. Yes, I'm glad Stephen brought up some points about the connection with Russia. And I remember when Nikita Khrushchev said, "We will bury you." I was a kid years ago, but that has always stuck with me. And our capitalistic society, it just breeds greed in people, and that is so much our downfall. Look at what's happening now. Greedy people are in charge. Someone like Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz, they also want to stay out of jail and keep up their greedy way of living. And it's like our government is devolving into a government of basically criminals, like in Putin's Russia now. I think we should maybe take a look and see how Russian people have survived under that, the real little Russian people, and what they do, black markets and things like that. I mean, it's just so negative what could be happening right now to the upcoming government. And as far as someone like that, Tulsi Gabbard, yes, somebody brought something up about her, too. She, it's dangerous to have people in the government and intelligence of all things. So it's just that's all I can say right now. But you also just brought up some good points, too, about, maybe this isn't all bad in a lot of ways. Maybe it will teach us some lessons. And, we've just got to get away from this being slaves to this capitalism. It's just it's hurting us. And, that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Fran.
One thing. Our government has been filled with criminals for a very long time.
Yeah, but so many at once.
But for those of you, yes, so many at once. They inhabit the House and Senate in a number that would boggle your mind.
Yeah.
Google that. I'm not going to do your work for you. And this Rep. Matthew Lyon ran from Congress, from prison, in 1798 and won.
Yep.
So
well, are we going to be taking the felony boxes off of the employment applications?
Well, there's only three things. Nobody can stop people from running for office. If you meet the qualifications of citizenship, age, and inhabitancy, you can run for office.
Right. Oh, some of you folks listening to us from Rayford or wherever you're incarcerated right now.
Throw your hat in the ring.
Yeah, put your hat in the ring.
Let's go.
Let's talk to Art in Lakeland.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm 62, and I'm sorry to say I had never voted my whole life till this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know.
So,
but the thing about it is I thought it was so important because this first time I felt like we were really going down the wrong road. But I have a lot of friends that they're all Republicans, all very MAGA. And what I realized 3 years ago is that you were not going to ever change their mind, because in their idea of Trump was that he was being persecuted so bad that there had to be something good about him. Because we all hate the government. No matter what you think, both sides have tons of complaints about the government. But in the MAGA's mind is Trump must have something right because they persecuted him so badly. Of course, we all know, it's because he's just a terrible person.
Right.
But I just wonder what you think about that, the mindset of, was never changed at all, and this race was never close.
All right.
Because of that.
Thanks so much for calling, Art.
So that's a
welcome.
good thing that Art brought up, because, and I'll keep this brief, when someone has captured the imagination, who's some seemingly terrible human, has captured the imagination of this many people, a smart person is going to go and look at this thing and say, what am I missing? And I did. I actually went and looked and talked. I talked to every Uber driver. I talked to the person at the car dealership. I talked to the people at the check-in counter when I checked my luggage. I talked to people in restaurants. And overwhelmingly, the vast majority of those people, no matter where I was, like half of them were reliably Trump voters. And they were willing to talk about the reasons for them. They were very open and they were very polite. On the other hand, if I posed myself as a Trump supporter, I was, even the consideration that I might be a Trump supporter, I was summarily torn apart by the Harris voter.
Oh, wow.
So listen to this.
Yeah, because, oh, yeah.
Come
All
on.
right.
Say it.
Well, it's like if you post anything negative about Harris, which there are, she was a flawed candidate before she came in, top cop in California. But yeah, the so-called, your so-called peer group there, the people who are actually voting for Harris, they would get irate. And it's like, what are you talking about, lady? I held my nose and voted for her. Shut up.
Right. I got on a plane and flew across the country to cast my vote, even though I understood what the backdrop was.
Right. So, all right, let's talk to Stephen in St. Petersburg. Is everybody in St. Petersburg named Stephen?
Yes, they are. They're all Stephenites. And I'm the leader of all the Stephens. So, I was going to mention, I was listening. The country is run by oligarchs, let's face it.
Yes. Thank you.
And the politicians serve their donors and their masters. Now, I bring up the issue about Joe Biden killing the offshoreman strike and the railroad strike.
Oh,
now,
Yes.
the only thing that's going to change the country is internal strikes where people, the billionaire class, are affected financially because they're not going to change the system, what we're dealing with and what it's been like. So both parties are identical. Let's admit it, say it.
Yes.
It's true.
We've been
The
saying
only
that,
time-
Stephen. You know.
Yeah. The only time that they're going to argue on identity politics and they'll put a show on, but they serve their donors. Now, go back to Joe Biden, union buster, strike buster, but he was painted as a picture that he was pro-labor. Now, he's not. Now, let me get to Trump on one issue. The thing about Trump, which is a good thing, is Dick Cheney and Mitt Romney and the Bush family hate you. So that's a good thing. So Trump shoots from the hip, and he's unpredictable. And he's not a conservative, and he's not a Republican, even though he likes to talk like one. So when I look at Trump, you just got to go, if Dick Cheney hates you, and Mitt Romney hates you, and the Bush family hate you, there must be something good in the guy. And I might add that in 1991, George H. Bush told Mikhail Gorbachev NATO will never go 1 foot east. And they shook their hands. And what has ever happened since then is NATO is on the Russian border. But Russia's the bad guy. You see, Russia doesn't want war with America. America wants war with Russia, but they're getting other people to do it, and that's what the Ukraine war is about. Russia doesn't want war. And we got to come to that conclusion, the find Jesus moment, that Mikhail Gorbachev, when the wall came down, was going to have peace with America. And then actually, Russia and the U.S. started having better relations. And those relations slowly deteriorated because we, as NATO, were pushing countries to join us. And no Russian leader is going to tolerate nuclear weapons right next to their country. Nobody would. Just like the Cuban Missile Crisis historically.
Okay.
So,
got to let you go,
anyway,
Stephen.
My final point is, you know, people, whatever side of the fence you're on, you have to realize we're all on the same side of the fence.
I agree, but we got to let you go.
Okay,
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Bye.
I got an email here. Who's to blame? I like checks and balances in government. Apparently, the Republicans now control everything. Who is to blame? The voters are the Democrat Party. I'm going to let that one just remain open.
Wait, we talked about that already.
Yeah, we're going to go right. It was at 10:22. Let's see here. We've got, help me understand. Karen Underwood says, please explain to me why so many black men and Hispanics voted for him. That is what I can understand. Same with LGBTQ, Karen and Dunedin. Okay, I'm just going to leave that alone. Dwight says, I sincerely apologize for the email. He says, I hope the download and the registration people get some sleep today. I hope they wake up soon. God bless all the volunteers. Okay. Then I've got, how about Putin broadcasting nudes of Melania Trump after Donnie's victory? Okay. These just don't make any sense today. I am not trying to give everybody their say. I am not as down on Joe and Kamala as you seem to be, but one huge error Joe made, hiring Garland the Meek as Attorney General and not firing him when it became obvious he would not put traitor Trump in prison.
Yeah, and that is just what I'm getting to. It's like, what, these people almost toppled our whole democracy on January 6th and got slaps on the wrist, and the main perpetrator, allegedly, did not get any consequences. He got elected.
Got one more email, and I'll be done with everybody. Anyone paying attention to just the evidence in the public record cannot refuse to admit reality that Trump is a criminal rapist who incited violence in an attempt to steal an election. I have had friends tell me they wish I could see what they see. That Trump is our savior. I can't see what they see because it doesn't exist. They are in a reality denying cult, Greg. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So
okay.
I want to do a pre-pitch for our next fundraiser, okay? It is more important now than ever for us to have independent media and radio.
I'm hearing some fuzz.
I am too.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything about it. But you guys, get your pennies, warm them up for us. Create a little jar right now where you throw $1 in there every day or so that when we have the next drive, you are ready to continue to support us, to stay on the air, to continue doing what we do. We say things people don't want to say, right? We bring you the news. We successfully talked about Waltz months and months ago before he was even a thought when Biden was still the president, right? We told you with full-throated predictions about the outcome of this election based on the mood on the ground. So please remember that during our next fund drive. Next week, we're going to bring on Tyler Barrett to talk about Ione Townsend just resigned from running. She didn't resign from the board, but she will not seek re-election. We want to talk about the role of young elected officials and their supporters in helping to make that happen next week right here in this studio.
All right. So thank you for listening to Surly Voices. Join us again next week at 10 a.m. on WMNF Tampa 88.5.
stunning. I like shining. I like